Welcome back to Atypical Talk. This is a podcast where we have conversations that illuminate the intersection of faith, culture, and the common spaces of our humanity. I'm Abby.
I'm Allison.
And I'm Joel.
And our opening question today is, what is the best movie theater experience you've ever had? I might have Joel start because I feel like he goes to the movie theater way more than the rest of us.
Way more than me, for certain.
I think you're probably closer to me than you think. You see movies.
Think so?
Yeah, you see movies.
Yeah, I mean,
I love going to movie
often.
theater, but I'll go to movies by myself. Like, I love going to a movie.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah, am I a creep for doing that?
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
I'm never the only one. That's not true. I've been the only one. Just block out the rest of the world. No, clearly, for me, I've had a lot of great movie experiences, but I think seeing Avengers Endgame on like the Thursday night premiere, sold out theater, takes the cake. Like, it was just an epic movie, and everybody there was, this was like a midnight showing on the Thursday night before it's actually released on Friday, and there were people cheering and clapping during certain scenes in the movie, and then it gets to the end of the movie, and I'm like weeping, crying, because I'm an easy crier, but you would cry if you had a heart in that movie as well. So it was just the coolest thing, like seeing certain things happen and everybody going, oh yeah, come on, that's awesome, or cheering, and it was just really fun. And I always say that if I could erase my memory of that to experience that again for the first time, that would be my movie. I'd love to see that again for the first time and not know anything that happens.
Yeah.
A lot of joy.
I have a very similar answer because mine.
I've never been to a midnight premiere either, so that's another.
I feel like
too.
midnight premieres kind of phased
They
out
did phase.
around the
They
time
did?
that I was in high school.
Yeah, maybe it was just like it was Thursday night. Maybe
Yeah.
it wasn't midnight, but it was Thursday before.
Yeah.
I remember people talking
Yeah,
about
but I
it
used to
before.
do
I've just
midnight.
never done it.
I saw
yeah.
The Dark Knight in a midnight premiere.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty cool.
But I went to one of the very first showings of Spider-Man No Way Home, and it was a very similar experience where it was packed. And at first I was annoyed because we were sitting next to a group of high school boys who were obnoxious at the beginning of the movie.
No.
But
High school boys?
it
Obnoxious?
was that whole atmosphere of being in a room of people who were just as invested and excited about everything that was happening and crying together, and it was just an incredible experience, and I thought it was awesome. Like, growing up, I was never a huge fan of Spider-Man. Like, he was kind of lower on my list of superheroes. Yeah, but that was incredible. I love that movie so much.
Aww.
Did you cry?
Yeah,
Oh, there you
absolutely.
go. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, so for me, it's a little different because my memory is terrible, and I've mentioned this before, but also, like, I do not retain movies. So, like, I go and watch them, and then when they're done, I have moved on with my life. So I am always a terrible answer at these kinds of things. But recently I took a girl that I mentor to the movie theater, and it was her very first time ever being at the movie theater. And so that was very cool, even just like getting the popcorn and the candy and getting her set up on her little seat that she needed to be able to see. And just the whole, theater experience kind of through her eyes. It was kind of, I took my oldest back when she was 9 to Justin Bieber. Never Say Never had like a concert, in the theater kind of thing. And she literally thought it was like the best thing ever with like the blue slushy slurpy thing, whatever they have, just living your best 9-year-old Bieber fever life. So that was also a cool moment. So
Yeah.
Did it make you a believer?
I mean, I'm a big fan. I'm not ashamed. Maybe I should be, but I'm not, and that's okay.
That's awesome.
So it's not exactly for the story or the movie, more like the whole experience. For you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, I don't remember anything about movies once we leave.
Yeah. So our first article today is an Insider article titled Taylor Swift's Eras Tour movie made it into theaters by sidestepping Hollywood studios. AMC Theaters announced that a movie version of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour will be showing in its theaters beginning October 13th. But unlike practically all releases that play at its multiplexes, AMC is also the concert film's distributor. This unique deal was made between Swift's family and the theater chain CEO Adam Aron, according to Puck. The box office numbers are likely to be massive. AMC announced that the concert movie has become the highest advanced sales revenue day in the company's 103-year history, beating Spider-Man No Way Home. From movie studios to third-party movie ticket platforms, everyone was shocked by the announcement of Swift's concert film. Typically, all distributors are in the loop on each other's releases, so marketing and screenings can be worked out months in advance. But when it came to Taylor Swift The Eras Tour, Insider has learned that all of the studios were not given a heads up. Universal was burnt the most. Its Blumhouse release, The Exorcist Believer, had to be moved up a week. It originally had the same October 13th release date as Swift's movie, and millions had already been spent marketing it as such. So do you guys have issues with AMC not, letting the other production companies know about this release, and why or why not?
I mean, honestly, I think it's kind of genius a little bit because, if I could cut out the middleman, at times, like if I'm paying you and somebody else is taking a cut out of it, I'd rather just pay you direct,
Mm-hmm.
So, but I could get, behind where everybody else is a little upset, obviously. Yeah. But I think in the article, too, it said that it is going to be played at other theaters, not just AMC. So like Regal and Cineplex and some other places. Mm-hmm. So some independent theaters and stuff. And so it's not like they're just keeping it all to themselves. Yeah. They're sharing, mm-hmm. But I don't know. It's very interesting, just the whole concept of it for me, because it's what I wish she was able to do or somebody was able to do instead of Ticketmaster, that whole thing. Like if there was another option or a better way, like let's do that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think that the whole entertainment industry is really in a season of disruption and change. I mean, if you go back to like the music industry and streaming music compared to going out and buying CDs the way that it was, 10, 15 years ago now, the reality that I can pay for a subscription and have access on my device at a high quality song mm-hmm. for $15 a month for every song I could ever imagine is just incredible. Yeah. And so the whole entertainment industry is in a season of disruption. And I think streaming has done that same mm-hmm. thing with studios and with Hollywood. I mean, the direct to streaming thing that happened during COVID, there's going to be more and more of that. Mm-hmm. And big name actors and studios are going directly to Netflix mm-hmm. and things like that instead. So it's just, I feel like it's fair game because everybody's trying to figure out the new model and what's mm-hmm. sustainable. And I mean, it's capitalism, baby. Like try it out. And if it works and if the market will bear it, then we'll see. But I do think that there's just going to be such a huge disruption in how these things are done that there's going to be experimentation, which is cool unless you're on one of those teams that aren't experimenting inside of that. So I think that it's an interesting time for us as we sort of think about different ways that we ingest media. And we were just talking earlier separately just about how in a couple months there's not going to be any product from Hollywood because because of the strike that's been going on, and mm-hmm. we haven't really felt that yet as consumers of stories and media. But it's going to be another opportunity for them to experiment and to go back and do different things. So I think it's interesting.
And what's interesting about that too, you bring up the strike, is like the only reason that this is even being able to be a thing is because Taylor Swift, got the union stamp of approval. Basically, she was able to strike an interim agreement, which other people can do as well with the actors union, because she agreed to the union's last offers to studios, which included like higher pay and increased breaks and better residuals for streaming. So like other people can do this too, if they're willing to play ball. So, because I was also like, how is this even possible? Like, how is this movie even coming out? Because, there's this union strike. So I thought that was interesting because I'm like, well, good for her. Paying all these people what they're actually worth and doing the right thing. But
I don't know. My two main thoughts on it were, one, I mean, if they're not letting the other production companies know, I think it could almost give a bad rap to AMC during this strike because it could affect the sales of other movies being released that weekend, like they mentioned with the Exorcist movie. But also you had Barbie and Oppenheimer come out the same day.
Why can't you still release it?
And it was huge. It was like the biggest weekend for movies
in
see both.
a long time. So people could choose and it was just put better quality things out.
Yeah.
You know, and not think about like, well, it has to be our weekend, but
Right.
the better quality product, the better that probably sales are going to be in that way too. So yeah, that is interesting.
So what are your thoughts about a concert being released in theaters? Allison, you said that you've been to one.
Yeah, no, it was 2011, I think, or something like that. So it's been a hot minute.
I've been to one too in 2006.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you go see?
Well, it was called U2 3D, and it was only shown on IMAX screens in 3D, but it was a whole U2 concert
Yeah.
from South America.
Oh my gosh.
I was in college and went with some buddies, and it was so freaking cool.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And I'm a huge fan, but like the idea of like seeing my favorite band in 3D on an IMAX screen, like it was just so cool. People were singing and enjoying it. So I'm totally down. I've talked to a couple people from the church where I'm like, hey man, you tell me when you want to go see the Taylor Swift movie. I'm totally down. 'Cause it's like the closest thing to being like at a concert that I can't seem to get tickets for or want to pay for. So I feel like, oh, I'll do that for the $5 at AMC, you know, in town.
$19.89.
Oh, so that is it's a price for it. Yeah, that's right. You're right. So it'll be its own little price thing, but a lot cheaper than getting a balcony seat at Lucas Oil Stadium
Anywhere
next
Yes.
year or whatever. But no, I think it's cool, and I just love the collective communal experience of people like all there for one thing. And I just imagine that people are probably going to dress up and make it this whole thing.
For
And they're going to be
sure.
singing along.
They're going to have friendship bracelets you're
And
passing
so,
around. Yep.
I think that's all fun. I
Yes.
think that's cool. So I would love to see more concerts in theaters on big screens where you get like the best seat in the house in a way and turn up the volume even louder and it'll make it even more fun. So I'm all about it. I
Yeah,
think it's
well,
awesome.
and same for me. Like, this is an affordable way for people who have not been able to get tickets because they've been so gouged. I mean, they're just absurd. And so, yeah, this will be the only way a lot of people are able to afford to go. And I think, like you mentioned, you know, they're really playing it up to like get dressed up, bring your friends, swap bracelets, like do all the things. And so I hope that that's kind of how it goes, to give everyone kind of that same. I mean, obviously, you're not going to feel the stadium sway when everybody is jumping, but also I might be okay with that, you know, just a little unnerving. But no, I'm excited. I know we'll go. It'll be a fun, regardless, just experience. So
Yeah.
and I'll dress in red because that's my era.
yeah. Oh, okay. Let's go.
Is that the one with Trouble on it? Is that Trouble?
Yeah.
I got that. That's me. That's me.
Our next article today is a Hill article by Nick Robertson titled New Texas Law Requires Drunk Drivers to Pay Child Support If They Kill a Child's Parent or Guardian. Drunk drivers in Texas will now need to pay child support if they kill a child's parent or guardian in a car crash, according to a new law that went into effect on Friday. The bipartisan bill was signed by Governor Greg Abbott in June. It rules that any person found guilty of intoxicated manslaughter must pay child support if the victim had a child to an amount determined by a judge. Nicknamed Bentley's Law, the provision is being pushed in multiple states nationwide, started by a Missouri woman who lost her son, daughter-in-law, and grandchild in a drunk driving crash in 2021. Those who can't pay will be given payment plans, with those in prison forced to pay the support within the first year after release. An intoxicated manslaughter can carry a penalty of up to 20 years in prison in Texas. Abbott said he was proud to sign the bill earlier this year. Anytime a parent passes is tragic, but a death at the hands of a drunk driver is especially heinous, he said. Tennessee was the first state to pass a similar measure last year, and it is being considered in about 20 more states. So what are your guys' thoughts on this law?
I'm a little cynical towards it being effective, honestly. I mean,
I have a lot more questions.
I hope that it's effective because, I mean, any loss of life is a tragedy, and especially those that are young hurt even more, especially for those that they leave behind. I just tend to like go beneath the surface on these laws that have like they're punitive towards certain actions because of the age or because of different intricate nature of the details of the case. And I'm just like, I just don't know if like this is beyond just how old the kids are or how if there's a child that passes away, but like does a law ever actually change a person's heart? And like do these laws like work? Like for example, like the death penalty, it was instituted as a deterrent for violent crime. thinking like, well, we're going to threaten the death penalty so people will perform less violent crime if they know that this is their punishment.
Consequence, yeah.
And violent crime has never moved with the institution of the death penalty or carrying out the death penalty. And so I have a lot of conversation about just the efficacy of the death penalty and what does it do. And, you look back and there were those certain stickers that were very popular in the 80s, like baby on board, or like trying to get people to slow down and drive differently around you if you had a child in your car. And there was no like movement on the cars that had kids in it that were wrecked or death from car crashes from children. And so I'm just a little bit pessimistic towards like laws like that are going to like guilt people in a moment to make a different decision. I just don't think laws do that. Laws don't change the human heart. Now, laws are there to protect people, and we should have laws that protect our citizens, especially those that are most vulnerable. But I just don't know if like adding this extra thing into it's going to do anything, because I'm just not of the persuasion to believing that it's actually like a written law is going to change someone's heart posture towards other people or to consider other people. And I hope I'm wrong in that. And maybe that's just cynicism. But also like just coming from a faith perspective of like, following a written statute or law was never something that made a human heart bent towards God, and never got to the root issue of what was going on beneath the surface. And Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, with a lot of these "you've heard it said" statements about the Jewish law, the Torah, and he's not saying that the law is bad or that it's outdated, but he's saying like the heart of the law was always trying to get to your heart. And the law never changes anything, and you keeping the law or disobeying the law doesn't really change anything. But what's the heart underneath of this? And so like I just feel like this is another one of our humanity's attempt to try to like get to the heart through something that's not gonna do it. I get I understand the thinking behind it, and again, I hope it works. I am just cynical that a law written in a law book that is not something that people are thinking about all the time is going to actually influence their behavior. And I think when people have too many drinks and they get behind a wheel of a car, they're already inhibited in their thinking to where they're not going to be thinking, oh, there is that new law and I'll have to pay for this. Yeah. If it takes out a father or something like that, or a mother, and there's a kid, or if it hurts a child, and all these different kind of things. So yeah, I don't think that laws change people's hearts. Laws are there to protect us. I just think that if we think that this law is going to do more protecting because of this extra penalty on it, I don't know. It's not, I don't know. I would love to be proven wrong.
Right. Yeah, no, and I just have more questions. Like if it's a teenage driver, who pays? Is that a parent thing? Is that something that starts after you're an adult? Like if the person doesn't have funds, like literally just inability to pay, like who pays it? Like how does that work? Is this something that like, I don't want to say like student loans, but is this something that like just accumulates and you have to pay back later? Like, I don't know how this works. And then like, once the law goes into effect, is it retroactive for like your state? Like you go back? Is this just from now moving forward, But I saw where Kentucky actually signed one in law into effect in April of this year. It's called Melanie's Law, whereas this one was Bentley's Law. Yeah. And it's similar, but it expands. It says the restitution requirement to include children whose parents or guardians were severely or permanently injured in an impaired driving crash as well. So not just like the other one is just if they pass away. This one is if they're injured or impaired. So I don't know. I'm kind of like, Joel, I'm like, okay, so, is it going to change, somebody's behavior if they get behind the wheel? I don't know. I would like to think so. But yeah, it's just so hard to say. I mean, it's another consequence tacked on. It's not something that they're thinking of when they get behind the wheel. Yeah. Because they never think they're not going to hurt anybody.
Nobody who's had a bunch of drink and then gets behind the wheel of a car ever thinks I'm going to hurt somebody.
It won't be me. Yeah.
It won't be me. And we all do that to different degrees with lots of different things in our lives. So yeah, it'll be interesting if this has any actual effect on human behavior. I hope so. I just, from how I understand people and our behavior patterns. This stuff just doesn't seem to get to the heart of the matter the way that we want it to.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Abby?
I don't know. I think so. This was something that my husband Lucas, he actually sent it to me because he thought we should talk about it on the podcast. When I first read it, I was like, yeah, this is a great idea. But after thinking about it, it's not something that's going to change people's hearts. Yeah. It'll be great to be able to help the families,
moving
and
forward,
things like that. But
a little bit of justice in a way, or something.
So that's, to me, that's the only good aspect of this. Other than that, I don't think it's going to help reduce drunk driving accidents or anything like that. But I think it is a great way to give back to those families and help them through this. It's not going to fix the grief or anything, but it's a way to keep them afloat while they're trying to figure everything out.
Yeah, it's a way to meet them in their grief. Yeah. And I just, as you say, that was an angle I wasn't really considering in this too, but I think it's a great opportunity for, when these tragedies happen, how much more beautiful would it be if it was from people in their community that were coming alongside of them, not just a punitive, you get a check from the dude. You know what I mean? It would be more, in my thinking, it would be more healing, and it would be more full of love if it was coming willingly from people in their community or a faith community or something around them to do it. To where if I was getting a check or something from this dude, it would almost be like another sting every other time I would see it.
I could see that.
And I get why that's a way that we could do it, but man, if the church and if people around them really did our job, it'd be more healing, right? It's almost like this law and the resources coming from somebody who was the drunk driver, that would be like a Band-Aid to the situation. There's other willingly giving and sacrificially being generous toward them. That would be more like surgery to your heart. Again, it gets to the heart of the matter. And I'm not saying that those things are there. I'm saying that it would be beautiful if it was. And it'd be a great opportunity for people to do that. But the more I think about it, just as it feels like it's a swing, which is, you're swinging at it, trying to do something. But I don't know if it gets to the real heart of the matter.
Because you could also see it potentially being more traumatic in some instances, because if somebody doesn't pay, then you are taking them to court, you're suing them for this money,
and it's foreclosure. It's never
it's never happening, because most certainly you're going to have people that are not going to just do the thing, even if it's the law. And so it just could just be a lot of I don't know, additional trauma. I don't even know how that's possible, but it's gonna be hard.
So our next question is, if you could do anything in the world as your career, what would you do?
Wow, I have no idea what you guys are gonna say. Unbelievable. Just rip my heart out, you two.
What? You don't think we would work here?
Oh, yeah. I don't think it would be a question on the podcast. It's a quick conversation right there.
Okay, I'll add asterisk besides working at Bridgewater.
Okay. We'll take that. I'm sure that's the heart of the matter. Yeah.
No. I would love to be a full-time traveler, and I'm not kidding. So
that's an influencer job, basically.
Kind of, or maybe
gross.
Tourism marketing or something. I don't know, but I would love to be able to go anywhere and everywhere my heart desires, talk about it, tell people about it, and not just the touristy things, because when I travel, I like to go to the hole in the wall places, the mom and pop establishments, and so that's what I search for when we're going places, is local, unique places. And so that don't get all the hype. And I want to tell people about that. So I want to travel everywhere and hype up these super small local businesses that don't get all the attention that they deserve. In addition to being able to see the entire world or go everywhere. So that's what I would love to do. in a perfect world.
My answer is pretty similar. I would want to be a wildlife photographer and be able to travel the world just taking pictures of animals and cool scenery and plants and stuff. I think that would be really awesome.
Yeah.
Just because
when I went to college, I started out for photojournalism because I wanted to literally go sit in a rainforest and wait for animals to walk by and take pictures.
I see TikToks of people doing that all the time, and it's just so cool what they're able to find just, being still in the forest for a while. And
we could go together.
Okay.
We'll get a van, and you'll be still sitting taking pictures, and I will just be in whatever little random town we're in, just meeting the locals and doing the things.
Yeah, sounds
good.
Perfect.
Luck getting paychecks doing this, you guys.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your support.
Yeah, you're gonna start a GoFundMe to do your job, right?
Starting tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding.
Go to these places. I truly, I love what I get to do, and I do not spend any of my time fantasizing about something else. But as I was thinking about this, I think something that I've come to be passionate about is bridging the gap from academia to the local church, and trying to bring important, complicated conversations to the average person who's in a church. And so as I literally was just driving today thinking about this question, I would be like, man, if there was a way at some point that I could help train pastors and equip pastors to not water down things, but to bring the really important cutting edge conversations from academia to the average person coming to church and let them know why it matters, instead of just feeding a very pop Christianity, as I like to say, a Hobby Lobby version of the Bible and understanding what it means to follow Jesus. I just feel like there's a big gap in that. And in my work in preaching and teaching, I love doing that. And the more I get to do it, I'm like, I wish other people would do it, and maybe they'd be interested if I could help them do it. So maybe at some point, after I'm too old and I'm irrelevant from my place of leadership where I am, maybe there'd be a season of my life where I could help train and teach pastors and make an impact that way. That, or I could just be a music journalist. I would really love to. I would love to go to concerts and write reviews. And
what is any different of that than me traveling to different cities?
No.
I figured you'd say that you wanted to play in a band or something like that.
You know what? There was a big part of my life that I wanted to be like a traveling musician, a rock star. And then there was a season of my life where I would do I think it was the most I ever did was 10 weekends a year where we traveled and did music at camps and things like that. And I just missed home so much. I remember thinking it's cool being on stage and collaborating creatively, but I'm like, I really miss my wife. I miss my dog, my creature comforts. And I'm tired of being up in a comfort inn in some little town. And so there was that thing where I was like, I'm past that part of my life. I like my creature comforts too much. And now I can't imagine being away from my kids. If I'm gone for 2 nights, it's like awful. So that was definitely a part of my life. But if I could drive to Indianapolis and see a concert, write about it, and I would do that too.
Okay. So our last article today is a YouGov article titled "Majorities of Americans Support Age Limits for Congress and Mental Competency Tests." Following Mitch McConnell's second freezing episode last week, which prompted concern among his colleagues, New Economist and YouGov polling finds that a growing share of Americans believe the Senate Minority Leader's health and age severely limit his ability to do his job. Nearly as many Americans have concerns about Senator Dianne Feinstein, who, like McConnell, has faced a series of health challenges in recent years. About half of Americans say that old age hurts elected officials by making it more difficult to do the work their positions require, while just 12% say it helps elected officials to have the experience and wisdom to do a good job. Large majorities of Americans believe there should be a maximum age for someone to serve in the U.S. as president, senator, or member of Congress. Nikki Haley, a 51-year-old Republican presidential candidate and the former governor of South Carolina, recently repeated her call for mental competency tests for politicians over the age of 75, saying that they need to let a younger generation take over. So what are your guys' thoughts on having a max age limit for people in political positions?
I want a person in office who is able to do the job required of them, whatever that might look like, whether they're 35 or 75. But, because I don't think it necessarily has to do with age. I don't know. There's also something to be said about life experience.
Wisdom.
Yeah, and wisdom. Yeah. So is younger better? Not necessarily always, But, I also understand the older you get, sometimes those competencies slow down or you're not able to perform the job function. And so in that case, yes, I would think you would need to either not reapply or, step away kind of a thing. So I don't know. The competency test for me is a firm no, but as far as age limits, I don't know.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
It's complicated.
Yes.
In a couple ways, but I agree that like there's something that just feels weird about making people take like a test and like saying, well, you're done at this age, because I know people that are in their 80s who are sharp and have so much life experience and wisdom and energy that I'm like, oh man, I want to learn from you. And then I know people that are in their 30s that I wouldn't trust to make my hamburger.
Yep.
And and it's just it is an interesting thing that we seem to be having in Congress. And then the two front row runners for to be president is Joe Biden, who's currently 80 years old, and then Donald Trump, who's 77. So they're both going to be in their 80s by the time they would finish this next term. It's shocking. And seeing some of the clips of Mitch McConnell and hearing some of the stories from Senator Feinstein too, it just leaves me with so many questions. Like I'm not for the competency test or the age limit. I mean, we live in a democracy and we can vote for this person or not, right? Like, so why do we have to add extra things to this to be like, well, I don't want to vote for this person because I don't think that they're competent. Instead of saying, well, they scored 1 point below on this test or they had their birthday. Sorry. I just don't like that because we live in a democracy and we have a choice to vote for them. And also, it's really interesting. It feels like ageism in judging somebody on their age might be like the last form of acceptable discrimination, right? Yeah, it just feels like that, right? To where in America, we toss people aside as irrelevant or not part of the conversation anymore because of their age. I mean, it's ridiculous, but think about actresses in Hollywood, like, oh, they're pretty or they're the it person for a while, but they turn 35 or 36 and all of a sudden now they have to play grandma in the movies or they're not in anything. And it's just something in America, we make an idol out of youth so much and it's all about youth. And maybe it's because I'm getting older, or maybe it's because I have a little bit more wisdom. Or maybe those two things coincide. But I just seem to think like we're like the only culture that's done that. And there's other cultures that they honor, as you get older. Like there's more wisdom. They're like the one that has all the wisdom and life experience. We need to go to the council because they know, and they know because they've been there before. And just in my work as a pastor, I am so hungry for those people that have been where I am, and I want to learn from them, from their successes and from their failures and from the encouragement that they can give me. And so I think there's something to be said for the thing inside of me that wants to discount somebody because of their age. I don't think that's healthy just to say, well, you're irrelevant, grandpa,
and
or
what's the
bye,
age?
boomer. And like, and the age is always going to be moving, right? Because when I'm a boomer, or I'm not a boomer, but when I get to that age that they are currently in their like 50s, 60s or whatever, maybe 70s now even, I don't know. But it would be like, oh, I don't feel irrelevant. You're going to push that age back. You're going to push it back, right? And so, because we never see it in ourselves. I just think it's unhealthy, but I think it is something inside of me to where I'm like, why do I feel like because this person looks this way or they're that old that I feel like I wouldn't take them as seriously? Because I think that is a current American phenomenon and not something that's been natural throughout history. Like in the scriptures, it talks about age being a crown of wisdom, and there's like this gray hair is a crown of glory kind of thing. Like it was like something that was more esteemed as you got older, and we've twisted that and distorted that to think that it's impossible. Now, on the other side of the conversation, there also seems to be this moment of, our leaders are in the government. They're just older and older and older, to where there doesn't seem to be any regard to like pass the baton to the next generation. It's almost like you get that power and they won't let go of it, even if it's for the best of the work, for the country, for the people that they're serving. It's like
that's a different issue.
That
like
ring
that's a
of
power.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's a pride.
It's a
kind
pride,
of thing.
and I don't think it has to do just with age.
Yeah, no,
but it does seem like right now there's a lot of people that would be really hungry for a next generation of leadership, but the people that have the power do not want to hand it over, and that's discouraging to me as well. I read an article outside of politics, but more in church leadership, a couple months ago about how the average age of a lead pastor has gone up. To where now it's like, I think 59 is the average age. In the 80s, it was like 37. And so people aren't passing the baton. They're not humbly saying, hey, I am in an interim spot and I want to set this thing up the best way that I can for the next person. And I don't think we're seeing that in church. I don't think we're seeing that in government leadership. And I think that's actually the healthiest way to hold power, is to steward it and to then be able to hand it over to the next generation. And there seems to be something that's seductive about power and influence, to where once you get it, you can't imagine passing it over. Like getting that ring from the Lord of the Rings, I gotta have it. Yeah. And it's sad to me, because I think you see that allure of power to where they just won't hand it over, even though I feel like everybody's saying, hey, you did your thing. Let's pass it over to the next generation. And I wish it was just of their own volition and not like a law or a competency kind of thing playing into it, a test.
Well, and I just wonder too if sometimes that happens because they don't want to become irrelevant. Like you
another
turn that
pride
over,
issue, yeah.
And then, once you hand it over, then who are you? Just that not knowing who you are outside of your vocation or whatever it might be. But I was reading another article too that said, if an age limit, say, of 66 were in effect right now, almost half of the senators currently in office would be ineligible, because the median age of the current senators is 65.
Oh my gosh.
And so, it's just like, but then again, who sets the age?
Yeah,
and that's where, again, it just gets gross. There's just a lot of tension, because it's never going to be what everybody wants it to be.
But it's not a good look, and it's not good for anybody to see people having seizures in the middle of a press conference.
Yeah, and that just hurts my heart.
Out,
yeah,
and you're like,
that just hurts my heart.
No.
Yeah.
And to see, to think that we're, our current president and our last president who's running again, they're just in their 80s, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think my grandma was driving when she was 80.
Yeah.
And,
now, my grandpa could outwork us all right now, today. And, so that's cool. But, also...
That's not the norm, though.
It's not the norm. And he's even stepping back from things that he was doing. So, naturally, he's just seeing, so it's like, come on, people, we can do that. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay to do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's helpful to discriminate versus age, but it's discouraging to see people that they can't seem to do the job at the level it needs to be done, or it's harming them, and they just won't relinquish control or pass the baton. And whatever is said at the end of my time of doing what I do, whether it be in my job that I currently have or whatever it might be next or whatever, I don't want to go down swinging to where I was fighting for it. I want it to be graceful and be thinking about other people and not just my own pride. And not finding my whole identity in what I do, but seeing it as I like thinking of it. I heard somebody say once that every pastor is an interim pastor. And I'm like, that's a really helpful way to think about it. I have my time that I'm going to be sitting in this seat, in this role, but it's not my church and it's not all on my shoulders. I'm an interim pastor for starting 2020 to whenever I'm done. And I want to hand it over and be healthy for the next person, whoever she or he may be. So that's just what it is.
I don't know. For me, I feel like you look at
the Gen Z, let her talk.
You look at office buildings and restaurants and stuff around here. You're not having a 70-year-old, 80-year-old person managing that stuff, but we have no problem having someone that age manage the country. Yeah. And so, I don't know. It's a difficult situation because I don't think you can set laws and age limits and competency tests and stuff. But there's a point where, you should be stepping down if you're having these health issues that are affecting you being able to be a good leader. And I don't know.
My question on the working and managing stores and stuff too is like, are those people even applying for that work though? Like, or they think it's too strenuous, you know what I mean? Or like it's just not enough pay.
Yeah. Well, and I think about the president too, and I'm like, okay, they have so many advisors and people working for them. Like, how much are they? I know we put a lot of stock in them, but like, how much are they actually doing versus all the people around them? You know, I don't know, because I've never been the president. I've never worked in the White House, you know, those kinds of things. But I'm like, are they more placeholders in a sense versus,
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I think it's working, but it's a lot of decision making and mental work, which is honestly the hardest part, right? And like sitting in meetings and having to take information and make a decision that's not a great decision, but it's the best decision you have, which I think you need a ton of mental acuity for to make, right? It's not just standing up on your feet or building something. So it's hard, and it's hard to be a leader in any shape that you're in. So it's just it's an interesting thing, but I feel like, man, it is crazy when you say half. If you make it 66, half of the Senate would be out of work.
Oh yeah,
like, right?
Whoa,
yeah,
ineligible.
And then it comes back on us though as voters too, right? Because we're the ones voting. If we have a problem with it, and if you don't think that they're young enough to do the job, then it's.
But I think people often then don't want to vote for the other person because they're on the other side of the aisle, and so then they just vote for their party instead of what potentially could be best. So I don't, it's all very gross. It's
hard. Yeah.
Well, that's it for this episode of Atypical Talk. If you have any questions, topics you'd like us to talk about, you can email those to atypicaltalkpod@gmail.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and now TikTok.
What?
Yes.
The TikTok.
I have lost my eternal battle, and I have sold my soul to the Tickety Talk. Man,
can't wait.
Now the turns have tabled.
They really have.
But we will be on TikTok now as well. All of those are Atypical Talk Pod. And make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to get updates when new episodes are released. We hope that these conversations today have helped you think wider, love deeper, and partner with God to bring the up there down here in your everyday life. Thanks for listening.